Anyone that's owned a Nintendo Switch for an extended period of time is also very likely to own a subscription to Nintendo Switch Online, for better or for worse. It's a required purchase to play any of the games that you've already bought online. This is very common practice in the console gaming industry, but Nintendo's specific implementation of this practice has always struck me as brave. It's astounding to me that they made an online subscription service and then promised like no improvement to their online experiences in the process. Back in the days of the Wii, the online was god awful, but the Wii was viewed as an underpowered console, and couch co-op on Nintendo consoles was still fairly prevalent, so people just groaned and laughed it off. The best example that comes to mind is an old joke that Donkey made.
Now think back to Brawls Online.
But now that we're older and wiser as a community, mostly, we understand that the Wii came out in 2006, that it's been about a decade and a half since then, and that Nintendo's implementation of in-game online play is like just as bad as it was back then. People will probably hear me say that and tell me I'm exaggerating and that nothing's ever been as bad as Brawl, but what those people don't understand is that Nintendo has been using the exact same server type and netcode since then to now. Those being peer-to-peer and delay-based netcode. What does that mean? Strap in, because this might take a bit. Every game that's played online needs to communicate with a server of some type to function properly. Obviously, the consoles that are actually playing the games need to communicate with each other, but this is generally done one of two ways. Either by using a dedicated server, meaning the game itself is run on a server managed by the developers or someone that they hired to manage it, and the consoles being used connect to the server itself to communicate with each other. Or by using peer-to-peer, where the game is run on each of the consoles being used, and the server only does things like keeping track of how much time has passed in a match or keeping track of who's winning. Obviously, this is a very simple explanation of these concepts, but even understanding the very basics of this can help demystify a lot of what's going on in the background of the games that we play. Common sense would dictate that dedicated servers would be the ideal solution for connecting players in every situation, but this is actually false. If the amount of people who need to connect to each other is small, then peer-to-peer can actually be better overall, as long as the players aren't geographically located too far away from each other. That's actually why peer-to-peer is used very commonly in fighting games, even the ones that are considered to have great online. It's also just fine in games that don't require really precise timing, like Pokemon, for example. But again, it's better for small amounts of players connecting to each other. In large groups, it is 100% preferred to use dedicated servers, and that's because syncing the data between players is very difficult and only gets more difficult when you add more players to the mix. Ever wonder why an Inkling that you splatted in Splatoon 2 sprayed ink after being defeated, or why a person that you definitely hit with a green shell in Mario Kart kept moving like at full speed regardless of that fact? That's the reason. The information between consoles isn't being synced properly, making everyone's experience just awful. That's probably cleared up why you run into teleporting cephalopods and racers so often, but I bet you're probably wondering why Smash Ultimate's online is still so god-awful, considering that it uses peer-to-peer in the right situation, and that's because the netcode that it uses is still god-awful. Think of it this way: the server type determines where the information is being sent, the netcode determines how that information is handled. An alarming amount of fighting games, including Smash, use peer-to-peer in conjunction with delay-based netcode, an archaic standard that is at the heart of the vast majority of poor online experiences that are had to this day. When a game with delay-based netcode connects two players with decent connection to each other, it's completely adequate. As long as the players have a good connection at all time, nothing will go wrong in game. That's not how it works though. Everyone knows that connection strength and speed fluctuates, and delay-based netcode is just not built to handle that. If you're in the middle of a game and your opponent's connection is dipping in and out, even though your internet still may be as strong as ever, the game will skip. It can't move forward without your opponent's inputs, meaning that it'll stop until it receives them. And when it stops, it will not be able to accept any of your inputs until it starts again. This is what's known as eating inputs. Even if you're a smart and sensible person and you use the LAN adapter whenever possible, you're still going to run into an unreasonable amount of issues, and this is why certain fighting games can't be played at the same level online as they can offline. Even though every fighting game inherently has a specific amount of delay, even offline, if the game uses delay-based netcode, it becomes too inconsistent to input the same thing repeatedly, which means that it can't be used effectively as a medium to compete with or even learn from. This is why it's unacceptable that in the year of our Lord, 2020, Nintendo is still using the same delay-based netcode for everything, and it's a large part of why Nintendo's online experiences have been mocked since inception to this day. And it's even more unforgivable when you realize that the solution has been found and known about for ages. That being rollback netcode. There's a ton of information out there on why rollback netcode is important, but I'm mainly going to be referencing this video by Hold Back to Block. I recommend that you watch it and share it around after watching this video. Rollback netcode is literally delay-based netcode, but more feature-rich. Instead of stopping the game whenever an input isn't received, it simply continues with the same inputs that it had prior to being cut off, which is correct the majority of the time. Then cross-references it with the input that it received later, rolls back the game state if it's incorrect, resimulates it, and then pushes out the correct game state on the first available frame. And aside from that, the major benefit about rollback that the majority of people don't seem to understand is that even if two players are connected and their connection is bad, they will always be playing in the same amount of delay. And this legitimizes online play because it means no matter what, the timings for your inputs will always stay the same. And you just can't say that with delay-based netcode. Now, some of you may be saying, what happens if you're in the middle of a move, you disconnect and you get hit before you reconnect? Wouldn't that cause some audio or visual weirdness? And you'd be right to assume that it can cause issues if it's not implemented correctly. But that's if it's not implemented correctly. Logic can be built into the game to mitigate these problems. And here's the best part about it. If you're playing a game with a replay system of any type, it can absolutely be retrofitted with rollback correctly. Now, don't get me wrong, even though a license to GTPO is free now, and the team behind it is available for contact at any time, I understand that retrofitting Nintendo's current games with rollback would still cost money. But the argument that it can't happen because it would cost too much money goes directly out the window when you consider that we're paying for this online service and it hasn't improved at all. You're telling me that with all the money that Nintendo's making off of NSO, among other things, they couldn't spend a small amount of it on fixing their insanely bad online experiences? Because even if it does cost a bit of money to implement rollback, it doesn't cost that much money. You see, I have a belief, and that is that Nintendo is stubborn as all hell, and they won't fix their online, not because it would be too costly, not because it would take too much time, not because it wouldn't benefit their games and no one would notice, because they don't want to. They're Nintendo. They know best. Don't ask questions. Just continue to consume product and they get excited for next product. Even if they do fix their bad online, there's still the problem that the online portions of their games, they're like, it's like a house, right? The foundation is good, the insulation and wiring is good, but like there's nothing holding it together. There's no cement, there's no nails, there's no friction like Miyadaiku carpentry. It's just like they take two pieces of wood and just like, you know, just like, hold it together and just... Yeah. Basic features and functionality are either missing or done completely wrong. Like in Splatoon 2, why can't I exit a matchmaking queue after joining it or play any of the ranked only modes outside of ranked? In Smash Bros. Ultimate, why does changing my character inside of a lobby force me to leave the line? And why is it that after 30 hours of searching in Super Mario Party, heart-wrenching, soul-gripping searching, I can't find a single good excuse for there not to be a decent online portion to this game? There are minigame rushes. Speak out of line again, and you shall be cast into the dungeon. The online service that we're paying for is bad. It's bad because it does virtually nothing to enhance the experience that we could have potentially had without it. Cloud saves don't count. And it's bad because the online functionality that we unlock with it in the games that we own is pants. Not good. This is causing a few things. One, it creates a lack of willingness to play Nintendo's major online games for any extended period of time. Like, You know, sometimes I really want to improve my aim in Splatoon 2, but after the fifth DC in a 30-minute time span, that desire just like goes away. Two, it obviously creates a major amount of disdain with NSO itself. Like as a viewer and streamer on Twitch, that's right, I stream at twitch.tv, that's Gigabyte YQT. The amount of times that I've said and seen $20 a year in reference to NSO, you know, mocking it, is worrying. Like, certain streamers have $20 a year emotes, and you can bet your bottom dollar that they are spammed heavily when appropriate. Three, it's furthering the lack of faith that old-time Nintendo fans and new Nintendo adoptees have in Nintendo's ability and willingness to adapt. Like, we understand that you've revolutionized the gaming industry as a whole several times over in the past. That was then, this is now. Where is my online board play in Super Mario Party with additional boards? Come on. And four, and this is kind of just the third point repeated, but I'm not rewriting the script because I'm already in the middle of shooting. It makes Nintendo look like the most stubborn, bullheaded hermit of the gaming industry. Like, we know you can fix these problems. You know that you can fix these problems, but you're not going to because you know best. You make the games. Get real. There's no mystery around this anymore. We understand what goes into making these games, why we like them, and why we don't. We're not stupid, and the fact that you have very clearly displayed your disinterest in listening to your consumers by just meandering around the standardization of your online experiences is actually disrespectful at this point. We pay increasingly high amounts of money to experience all that these games have to offer, and we still don't get that because of how embarrassing these online experiences are. Like, yeah, Nintendo, you make great games, but with your lack of dedication, you also break great games, and it's hurting your image, and it has been for a while. It's extremely evident that the Nintendo Switch is meant to be played at home and on the go, and that local multiplayer is a very important part of its design. But let me tell you something. It is the year 2020. The vast majority of multiplayer games that are played, even if they have both online play and local multiplayer, are played online. There's no changing that. And the fact that you have done basically nothing to mitigate the Switch's really bad Wi-Fi functionality is a problem. Like, even if you just advertise LAN adapters more, there'd be less of an issue. But it's okay, because I have a 5-step foolproof plan to fix this permanently. Step 1, update all of your major online games with the right netcode and the proper server type. Now, this will take time, effort, and money, but you know, we're paying for it, so there's no excuse. Step 2, create and advertise a clear place for your players to voice their concerns about your games. I shouldn't have to dig through 15 support forum pages just to tell someone why Captain Falcon does not work properly in Smash Bros. Ultimate. Step 3, add the necessary features that your games are missing and listen to fan feedback on what could be added in the future. You're already doing stability and balance patches currently, so this shouldn't be too outlandish. 4, clearly and consistently communicate with your install base on how your online experiences will improve. Explain clearly and openly how they will be improved, and keep your word. And step 5, actually make NSO worth it by bringing back Virtual Console and adding online to that. I don't care if the NES and SNES online apps become a library of sorts for the games. I just want to be able to play more older games on my Switch. Like, I'll pay more for them, I don't care. But the fact that I'm limited to 2 very old consoles with NSO, and that the only saving grace of NES and SNES online, that being the ability to play these older games online, is laughably poor, isn't helping you. We are literally trying to play games that are less than a megabyte in total size online, and they're lagging, like really. But hey, follow these 5 steps and you will have immediately reversed all the stigma towards your online games. Now, do I believe Nintendo will do even one of these steps? No, I don't. I've been a Nintendo fan for so long and been burned so often that I have very little faith in Nintendo's willingness to adapt. But hey, they could shut me up real quick by just giving Super Mario Party online board play. Like, it'd be real simple. I'd do it. But I'm not gonna hold my breath. And with that, I'd like to say thank you for watching the video. Have anything to add? Why not comment that down below? If you like this video, why not like and subscribe? And if you're really like me, why not follow me on Twitter and come hang out on Twitch? We have a wonderful community over there and I stream fairly often. Pretty nice. New content on the way, streams fairly regularly. That's about it. Bye.